All right. So the man is going through the cycle of being a Star Citizen backer. Every title up until this one was Star Citizen is literally the greatest invention known to man. And now it is the top 10 things Star Citizen needs to fix. So now we're coming full content creator telling CIG what to do, even though there's a top 100 list of things that need to do. So I always like to hear what people think is their priority. So I'm not kind of putting the guy down here. Hell no. It's always interesting to see what everybody's priority that needs to be fixed is, because everybody's priority of what needs to be fixed, if there was a top 10 list, I imagine that top list would be completely different for a lot of people. So yeah, let's start this one. This one should be good. This is from LevelCap. Top 10 things Star Citizen needs to fix.
Star Citizen is a game with unlimited potential. It currently allows players to explore a vast solar system in their highly realistic spaceships and cool combat armor, completing various tasks and exploring truly breathtaking locations. The project has been in development for over 10 years, and over that time, the developers have been able to achieve some of the never thought possible goals, like massive, fully explorable planets, giant spaceships with multi-crew functionality, and
I mean, the massive, fully explorable spaceship, I guess, was never a goal from the beginning, but yeah, I mean, that is essentially the one feat that made Star Citizen what it is today. Unfortunately, it's also the one that I feel like has made it so difficult to continue developing.
100-player plus ship battles. That said, if you happen to load up Star Citizen expecting for a fun introduction to the adventures that awaits, well, you're going to be slapped in the face with one of the most brutal onboarding experiences I think I've seen in a game. Beyond that, even experienced players are constantly bogged down by the incomplete systems and a general lack of quality of life features to make the game world easier to navigate and enjoy. And of course, the game is in an alpha state and far from its final vision as a product, but nonetheless, general feedback about the current state of the game and what players are enjoying and what's getting in the way seems to be helpful for the devs going forward. So today, I want to talk about the top 10 fixes and features that would improve the day-to-day experience in Star Citizen. And again, the purpose of this video isn't really to rant about the lacking areas of Star Citizen, but to hopefully better illustrate the fact that fixing or even polishing some of the more basic aspects of Star Citizen could have drastic impacts on the perception and enjoyment of the game. So first things first, item number 1 on the list shouldn't surprise anyone. It's one of the most lacking aspects of Star Citizen right now, and it's the navigational map and quantum jump waypoint system. Navigating around the verse.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's going to get into this, but this has been on the monthly report quite extensively, and they're talking about it a lot more. I imagine it's something we're going to see on an ISC pretty soon.
This is still one of the buggier and more inefficient aspects of the game, and its use is required to accomplish basically everything in the game. From the hard-to-navigate holographic menu on Mobiglass, the lack of search functionality, and occasional inability to select jump points, there is very little about the system that actually works. Combine that with the second phase of travel, which is quantum jumping, often being unable to target the required system, lacking direct jump options to space stations, and just generally bugging out and not working as intended, and you have a situation where just about every experience in Star Citizen starts off with running you through one of the worst and more unrefined aspects of the game. CIG has stated that an overhaul to the system.
Right? It's so important to travel that like your first introduction to the game is completely broken. That's a really good point.
Is in the works, and I think everyone would agree that it can't come soon enough. Now, the second thing in this game that's in dire need of an upgrade is the inventory system. As one of the newer additions to the game, it's understandable why it's still in its infancy regarding the overall functionality, but at the same time, player and ship inventory has become an important aspect of the day-to-day experience that is needed to function as best as possible and should be a top-tier priority.
If he doesn't mention third-person inventory, if I ever get an opportunity to speak to LevelCap, that is the first thing I'm going to ask him. What do you think about third-person inventory in this game in comparison to every other FPS inventory ever created?
when it comes to improving the player experience. Currently, the system lacks good stacking functionality, group moving of items, take all options, move all options, auto sorting, cumbersome swapping of gear and items, extremely laggy interactions, a lack of trading items from one player to another, and the lack of shared ship inventory leaves players fighting this system much more than enjoying it. The third item on this list is a bit more complex, but nonetheless a core aspect of Star Citizen's experience, and that's the general heads-up display and mobi-glass interaction.
I just don't know how we press I, and 99% of the time there's a wall in front of you, and that is for some reason acceptable to anybody. Like, think about every combat scenario you could possibly be in. You need to grab some more ammo out of your inventory and put it on your belt, right? And I press I, and my camera is inside the wall, and now I have to move that camera in a combat scenario just to get to the gun, to the magazine. It is the dumbest thing I've seen them do in this game. That is the single stupidest thing they've done, and yeah, we're living through the alpha experience. And yeah, it's just so bad. Yeah, I'm also loving that so far the entire video is UI. So CIG, you know, if they lack in one area, it's this. But I think most games lack in this area as well.
And confusing are some of the top ways I would describe this experience. And considering that the heads-up display, mobi-glass, and terminals are the main way of interacting with the universe, the efficiency of these systems should be massively streamlined. Mobi-glass, for example, displays some of the least useful information on the main page, making the most needed information like mission management and the community panel extra clicks away. Not to mention simple things like the contract panel just isn't efficiently laid out, requiring multiple clicks to find what missions you've actually accepted,
we've been
and
dealing
stuff
with
like
this
that.
UI
Ship and shop
forever.
terminals also have lots of annoying functionality, with shop terminals defaulting your delivery location to your backpack, and the ship terminals lacking filters and better management tabs, such as a claim all feature, sorting ships by what the current station has first, and being able to differentiate between two or more of the same ship type. Now, the heads-up display notification system, which appears toward the top center of the screen, is easily missable when a notification appears, and it doesn't allow for listing of notifications, and the off to the left chat window also encroaches on most UI interactions, making menus hard to read. There just seems to be so much room for basic quality of life improvements with Star Citizen's UI that it feels like it should just be one of the main focuses right now, aside from, you know, the back-end core technology. Now, item number 4 on this list kind of runs in the similar vein of UI, and that's having a functional in-game org system and generally more features for group and friend management. Star Citizen is being...
Okay, so reasonable up to here, and then it's like, now we're going to get into all the, like, imagined things that we would really like Star Citizen to be, but there's like 5,000 things that probably have to come before this. I like, as soon as you think like orgs 2.0, listen, as somebody who runs an org that would really like a lot of this functionality to exist, I would like reasons to play with an org be the priority first. And I think, you know, this update to Security Post Korea that's coming in Jumptown and things like that are like little spurts of it, but not the actual need yet. And I feel like until you find out what orgs will do consistently in the game, how do you build that system out, right? So I just think better party systems is probably what we need.
Built on a game that will focus on high-level coordination and teamwork, yet the tools for playing with friends are woefully lacking and buggy. Org management is basically non-existent in the game, and despite Star Citizen having very few game loops built for large player groups, there's still plenty of desire to play with friends and group up for activities. The party system is barely functional, especially at scale, and the UI surrounding it is pretty painful to deal with. Like trying to quantum jump to a location where group members are will often mess up and not allow you to jump simply due to UI markers getting in the way of just selecting your jump point.
It's insane.
Item number 5 on the list is a refined crime stat system. CIG recently mentioned boosting guard presence at the Security Post Korea, which will inevitably make it harder to hack away your crime stats. And while I'm all for making the life of crime more challenging and punishing, the fact that the game is still punishing so many accidental or straight up not your fault situations as being criminal needs to be refined before increasing the punishment of those actions. Currently, the ways to get crime stats in the game are buggy and super punishing, especially towards new players. NPC ships can crash into you, giving you a crime stat. Accidentally colliding with a space station can issue you a crime stat. Bumping another ship can result in a crime stat. Accidentally tagging a non-marked friendly NPC in a firefight mission will give you a crime stat. Missile locking an NPC by accident will give you a crime stat. Shooting a player marked as a hostile can give you a crime stat if their marker seems to turn blue for whatever reason due to UI bugs. Defending yourself against an attack from another player and win.
Because the best thing is he thinks that that's a bug, and that's not a bug. So that is, I think they really need to have an intermediary system of red, gray, blue, or red something blue, where an aggressor, there's certain things you could do to aggressors that you can't do to reds, and like, you know, I don't know, other games like reds were like permanent murderers, where a gray was like, a gray name was somebody who had just committed a crime stat for, you know, and you'll be gray for a little while, and the whole server or anybody around you will be allowed to be aggressive towards you without getting a crime stat themselves, right? And that's kind of what I would like to see. You know, if you hit crime stat 5, you know, you're a red, but if you're crime stat 3, maybe you're a red too. But it's like this, you know, if you're aggressive towards somebody, then and the game allows everybody else to be aggressive towards you. I don't know. It's a weird system, and it definitely needs some refining.
Winning that fight can give you a crime stat. Honestly, this list will go on and on and on, and it needs a massive refinement so that players trying not to be criminals don't accidentally end up becoming criminals. Now, item number 6 on the list are general landing and ship access upgrades. One of the most frequent ship maneuvers in Star Citizen is simply landing and getting out of your ship, often at an outpost, space station, or an away mission. This can be one of the more fun and just basic aspects of Star Citizen, but it's still extremely lacking and can lead to many dumb situations that really shouldn't be in the game. Firstly, the pitch black space stations are silly. Space stations should be self-lit with their own lights so that when they're in the shadow of a planet, approaching ships can see them and, you know, not crash into them while on a landing approach. Stations and cities should also have much better UI indicators. Spaceports need to be easily identifiable. I can only imagine how many people got stuck trying to land at Orison or Microtech for the first time and just not knowing where to go. Beyond that, space stations should have UI that identifies landing pads for quick refueling and repairs, and more work should be done to bring back some of the holographic landing approach tools. The first implementation of this wasn't great, but it seems like an absolutely necessary feature to improve general landing sequences, like assisting for lining up bigger ships with holographic landing approach.
Okay. Hot take here. I liked those, and they could be improved upon. I actually liked those things, and I think a lot of people didn't. I actually like the splines.
Now, disembarking your ship could also use some quality of life upgrades, like having an engine on warning to remind players that their ship could simply blow away in strong wind conditions if you leave your engine on. Being able to remotely access ship ramps and lights from Mobiglass seems like an absolute must and just the first step of remote access features. Dynamic ramps are supposedly coming for this game, but honestly they can't come soon enough. There's nothing dumber than landing on a planet and realizing that your ship ramp is angled too high off the ground to get back inside of it, leaving you stranded. And in an ideal world, landing lights that point down toward the ground and some type of night vision would go a long way toward making night missions, you know, pleasant.
Just cheat.
Item number 7 on this list is about reducing the busy work of the respawn process. Now, the game's long-term goal of a harsh life and death system should lead to an intense and rewarding gameplay experience of tough decisions and intense combat. I'm all for it. Having played a lot of EVE Online, I know just how valuable it can be to have a really punishing life and death system. However, in the meantime, especially while the game is insanely buggy, causing tons of unwanted deaths, it'd be nice to give players some sort of basics upon waking up in the hospital or just getting out of prison. So much of this game seems to be massively improved while using things like a multi-tool, but getting access to one isn't always an option depending on where you spawn, or it can be a long and annoying errand that you have to run before you get back into the gameplay. Giving players some basic respawn gear beyond just the spacesuit would go a long way toward minimizing busy work and increasing actual gameplay, teamwork, and having fun. Respawning with access to a multi-tool with tractor beam, mining attachment, and medical attachment.
I'm sorry, I completely disagree with this. Like, this is like a hard no for me. You literally just pressed I and opened your inventory, and there is all the basic gear you need. Play the game. Play the game, get the gear, store it there, and be prepared. I think that is one of the strongest suits of Star Citizen. But this is why, like, top 10 things that need to be fixed. You get to see what other people's priorities are. But yeah, play the game, right? That should only be an issue on day one. I actually think that this one's fine, but there is respawn busy work, but the respawn busy work is elevators and trams and having to fly back to your location and things like that. For me, it's the... I think it needs to be even more punishing, where if we look at his screen, there's multiple different types of armor there. I hope that, you know, some of those are really good and some of those are just basic and kind of crappy, and you actually get upset when you lose the good ones, you know?
It would be an awesome gift
visual.
of just saying, hey, you're ready to be a useful crew member right off the bat. And personally, I would even suggest going a step beyond by offering maybe a light piece of chest armor with a bottle of water and single food bar stored within it. Would just be a nice way to say, hey, enjoy your time out in the verse. Don't worry about running tons of errands before you can get back to the gameplay.
Like that's, I think that's the one strong suit of Star Citizen is they make you prepare. And like, I know a lot of people don't like the food and drink system. A lot of people hate them in a lot of games. You know, for me, I personally like all that stuff, and I like the hot and cold. And I wish there was more punishing mechanics like this. I think this is like actually one of the strong suits of the game, but okay.
Item number 8 on this list is refining the disconnect and logout system. Now, this type of update might be a little bit more dependent on the persistent entity streaming system that's being deployed with update 3.18, but man, does this game need an easy way just to get back into it if your computer crashes. The game is of course an alpha, so naturally players crash a lot, so being able to crash and rejoin where you crashed instead of having to take a 15 to 20 minute trip back is going to be essential. And this same system could also be used to implement a combat logging fix to prevent players from logging out mid-combat to save their ships. PvP really is never going to work properly without a combat logging prevention tool, so it should really be a top priority. Especially with Pyro coming down the pipeline, I can't see that system really being much fun if players are able to just combat log at the first sign of danger.
No, the combat
Item number
logging
9
has to
on
be
this
addressed.
list is an absolute must, and it's adding in a way to access consumables from your spacesuit. Whether you're piloting a single-seat fighter and need to take a drink of water, or you're on a planetside mission without breathable atmosphere, players gotta be able to drink. This has become much more of a problem recently now that hydration and food levels are burning at a much faster rate, so implementing that system seems like it has to go hand in hand with increasing the consumption rate. Again, nothing feels sillier than landing your spaceship on a planet, going on a mission, and not being able to drink water when it's literally just in your backpack. Item number 10 on this list is simple, but
that one is definitely a problem. It was listed as a feature. I believe that is on the roadmap. I don't know where though.
But absolutely necessary, and that is a location marking system. Being able to bookmark and save locations that you visited is already a needed gameplay experience for things like mining, but also just for the general purpose of exploring.
Yeah, like I absolutely want there to be I don't know how else to describe it, because I don't know if I played many games that do these things. I'm probably just having a little bit of a brain fart here, but most of the outpost locations I feel like should be unmarked, and there should be maybe a mission that gives you that location. And then, you know, like any game where you've gone to a place, like some UI thing pops up on the screen and is like, you found, like Skyrim or something like that, like you found this, and then that is permanently on your map and you can like fast travel to it. And in our case, you can quantum travel to it now, right? And then that is like how you find these places. And yes, like I agree, maybe location should be gated behind reputation, and then that opens up that door. But then what about the idea of like one of those gated locations that are hidden behind rep, but you came across it on your own? What if you came across a caterpillar wreck and that, you know, you now have that all the time, right? And if you came across it on your own, you can go back to it. But maybe you won't like have a mission there or something.
Especially
I think that's
when the
really
next
cool.
system Pyro comes out, having a way to get back to points of interest that you discovered is going to be absolutely crucial. The sooner this game can implement a waypoint and bookmarking system, the better. Now that's my list of top 10 things that I think Star Citizen should be focusing on in addition to the back-end work that the devs are already working on. I think those things in themselves would go so far to improving the quality of life in general, enjoyment of Star Citizen, and possibly bring the game to a state where it would be much more recommendable to the average gamer who would otherwise be put off by a game with just a general lack of quality of life features. And again, this list is intended as a suggestion of where the devs should be focusing their time most, in my opinion, but I'd also love to hear from you guys. What would improve the game most for you on a day-to-day operation? Do you like to do something very specific in the game that's really bogged down by certain missing features? Let me know in the comments. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.
Okay, so that was a really good video, and I really think he was pretty spot on a lot of stuff. The one thing, and it kind of blows my mind that he mentioned that he played Eve, because the one thing that is lacking is, from his video, if you played Eve, was any sort of purpose behind the things that you do. I was in a call with Level, Morph, Space Tomato, Avenger One, Astropub, and a couple other people. And the thing that I found so interesting was that Morph and Level consistently kept saying the same thing that made no sense to me. And I kept quiet because I didn't want to be rude, but they kept talking about how, you know, it would be really great if a certain mission paid more. And they should just make this mission pay more. They kept saying that. And I felt like just jumping in and being my normal self and just being like, just go into it and start debating about like what's good for the game and what's not. And I just kept my mouth quiet that day because I didn't want to be rude. And what purpose does the reward have on anything if the money doesn't have a purpose, right? So you need this like economic background behind the game to build up the purpose for you wanting to earn. Like, what is the point of doing missions right now? You have the ability to earn ships in game. That is a nice thing. That is a good thing. But there's like no real gold sinks in the game, and there's no real player economy or even just economy in general where like this thing is valuable because people want it. This thing is useful, therefore it has value. There's no flow of funds going between the players, really. It's all just being created out of nowhere at the moment, right? You take a mission, you get money, and the game just gives it to you. But there's not much for you to really spend that money on. So how many ships are you really buying in the game, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to say. It's a great progression feature in the game, but refueling barely costs anything. Repair barely costs anything. Rearming barely costs anything. Armor barely costs anything, right? And we don't have these tiers and levels of these components where it's so expensive. I think the main thing would be ship components and wear and tear on them and the ability to only repair them a few times, something like that, where there's some sort of a sink in the game, and then you have reasons for that. And I think the missions that pay decently would be more valuable if money actually had value in the game. I think a lot of people just kind of play the game, enjoy the scenery, or they just like PvP or whatever. Like, everybody has their reasons why they play the game, but I think most of it is being played fairly casually and not very like seriously, to the point where you would make a video of top 10 things the game needs to fix, right? That likely means that you want to take the game seriously, but the current game isn't meant to be taken seriously. And it can't be until there's actually a drive and reason to be playing it, right? Aside from, yeah, it looks cool, I'm just having a good time, right? So like, from this standpoint, from coming at it like these are the things that need to be fixed, coming from like an Eve background like he has, you would think it would be economy and purpose behind the actions that you make. So that would be mine. And but yeah, again, I thought that was a pretty good list. Some things I agreed with and some things I didn't. Like anything, because we're human.